All right, everyone, I'm going to show you how easy it is to use Whiteboard.fi with your students. So I went to the Whiteboard.fi site, and I'm going to go ahead and select New Class, and I'm going to name my class. I'm just going to call this Mrs. Fekoch. I'm going to go ahead and select Create New Class. Now notice I have a couple of options here. I can enable a waiting room lobby, and I can enable manual save mode for my students. I'm just going to leave both of those off for right now, and I'm going to select Create New Class. And let me press it one more time. There we go. And now notice you'll see that I have a URL, and I can copy this URL and share it with my students, or I can just share the last part of the URL and they'll be able to type it in on their screen. So they've already gone to whiteboard.fi. They're going to select join room, and they're going to type in C9 FYF. Now, if I was in a Zoom with my students, I could just copy and paste this into the chat, or I could even post this to Schoology and my students would be able to access it really quickly. So notice here on my screen, Smith has already joined. The students, as they join, they'll be able to type in their names. All right. Oh, and Brad Pitt, it's my lucky day, joined today. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch to toggle my whiteboard. And this is my screen right here. And the students see a very similar screen on their end. So notice you have a bunch of different tools. You have some shapes. You have images that you can insert. You can zoom in, zoom out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start with an image that I already created. So I had already gone into Google Slides earlier, and I made two sample problems right here. And I just went to File, Download, as a JPEG and save those to my downloads. So now I'm going to go up to my screen here and I'm going to click on the insert button. And I'm going to go, let's start with this one first. I'm going to go ahead and click open. So here's my problem that I want my students to work on. I can go here to the push button, and now I can push this to all of my students. So I'm going to go ahead and select current page only. And now my students are going to see the same thing on their boards. Now notice I'm scrolling down, and you can see that since I've pushed this to everybody's board, they'll be able to work on this problem. So I'm going to give my students a few minutes to work on the problem. They're able to show me their work. Look at that. Smith is doing a great job. They can use their the mouse to draw. They can also use the text tool to type it out if they wanted to. With the text tool, they'll need to make sure that they click outside the text tool to close that tool for their number to appear. They're doing a great job. Oh, notice Smith and Lucia Rocio, they found out how to change the colors. They're doing great. Now, while the students are working, I could go and click on Lucia's, and I could also give her feedback. I could give her a comment. I could give her a check, a thumbs up, thumbs down, and there's even a spot for you to do feedback history. If I wanted to, I could also push Lucia's whiteboard to the rest of the class so they could see it as well. If a student is maybe off task or doing inappropriate things, I could kick them out if I needed to. I'm going to go ahead and close. Now, while the students are working, notice right here, there's a plus and a minus. I could go ahead and get another whiteboard ready for them to work on. So I'm going to go ahead and do the plus sign. I'm going to click on this whiteboard. I had another image ready to go. Let's see. I have a little word problem. It's here ready to go. Once I notice that all of the students have done their work, then I could go back into push, and I could push the current page only. And now notice when I scroll back down, everybody has gotten the new problem for them to do as well. Now, these are all JPEGs that I created because I was typing a lot of things out. I could go in and do the plus sign and actually use the text tool to write something out if I wanted. I could use the drawing tools um, to write out my own problem. But of course, my mouse skills are not that great. So that's why I chose to write them out and share them with my students. So see how easy this is to use with your students. Let me just point out a couple of other features here under the settings. Again, you can lock the room once everybody is in. You can enable the waiting room. You can also hide student names. So if I wanted to share this, or if I wanted the work to be anonymous, I could remove the student names, but then I could turn it back on. I can also clear everybody's whiteboards. So maybe my students have gotten a little bit out of hand and I want to start fresh. I could go to this, back to the setting gear, and select clear all student whiteboards. And now everybody has a fresh board, and my directions would be to maybe have them write their own word problem and solve it. And so the students would have a fresh board to start with. Let's see. Oops. So if I go back to the gear, at the end of the lesson, I can decide to save all whiteboards as a PDF. And so it's been keeping record of all my students' work, and I can go back and review that work later. Then when I'm done with the lesson, every time I'm ready to use a new Whiteboard.fi with my students, I just go back to Whiteboard.fi and create a new session. There's no reason to set up an account. There are paid features with setting up an account, but we're going to just use the free version right here. When I'm done, I just select close room, the code disappears, and my students can no longer access it. So that's just Whiteboard.fi in a nutshell. There's a lot more things you can do with it. If you figure out something cool, share it via Twitter. Let me know. As always, thanks for watching.